CR101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
9. The Inheritance. Ruth 4. October the 12th, 1954. Good morning, friends. In studying the book of Ruth, we have seen that God is man's only true environment, not heredity, environments, governments, and men, but God alone is the real power and effective agent in all history. We have seen also that our own perspective on our lives is a limited one and therefore not to be trusted. Like Naomi, we see the grief and tragedy of our position and are ready to cry out, "The Lord has dealt very bitterly with me." We are impatient with God and want here and now what only eternity can give us, or what in the fullness of time will be ours, because we lack faith in His control and the perfection of His pattern. We have also seen that even as ancient Hebrew society had its God-ordained kinsman redeemer, the next of kin who restored forfeited property, redeemed man from slavery, and avenged the innocent blood, so we too have our next of kin. Our next of kin is the Lord Himself. He restores paradise to us, frees us from the slavery to sin, and gives us ultimate and final victory over death. In Ruth 4, the last chapter of the book of Ruth, we find Boaz taking steps to secure the redemption of Naomi's land and the levirate marriage of Ruth. Boaz took the man who was closer kin to Naomi than himself to the city court for a hearing before 10 men of the elders of the city. There he confronted the man with the situation. Someone, he said, has to fulfill the family's responsibility to redeem and restore our brother Elimelech's property to his widow Naomi. The privilege is first of all yours as the closest kin and then mine. Will you do it? The man promptly replied, "I will redeem it." 4:4. As a man of means, it was no problem to him to purchase the field and restore it to a relative as a gift. But then Boaz added a condition. "What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance." 4:5. At this, the relative drew back and said he had no desire to marry this foreign girl and rear children by her to carry on Elimelech's family name. It would hurt his own inheritance to do so. "Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it." 4:6. There is a great deal of irony in this passage. The man was ready to put out a good sum of money to restore land to a relative, but he was unwilling to marry one of the world's greatest women, quote, "lest I mar mine own inheritance," end quote, verse 6, lest he spoil his family line. Through Ruth was born King David, her great-grandson, and ultimately Jesus Christ Himself. The thoughtless kinsman rejected participation in the world's greatest genealogy, lest he spoil his family line. By evading his responsibility, he lost his greatest opportunity and inheritance. Too often we are like that man. For fear of hurting our prospects or our situation, we evade our responsibility and lose our greatest inheritance. The Lord gives to us, not as we run away from our obligations in order to please ourselves, but only as we meet them in all their implications. Boaz assumed the obligation gladly and married Ruth. Unto them a son was born, Obed, the grandfather of David. By the providence of God, two very diverse lines were brought together and blessed, Ruth and Boaz. Both were true saints, but how different their backgrounds. Ruth came from a background of wild paganism, hardship and suffering. Boaz knew only wealth and comfort and came from a godly people and family. The book of Ruth points up the fact that circumstances neither make nor mar saints. The Lord Himself is the sufficiency and environment of trusting souls. Moreover, trusting and faithful men and women are the instruments of the Lord, and He works in and through them to accomplish things far beyond their imagination, kin, or scope of view. Neither Ruth nor Boaz could see the ultimate fruits of their union in Jesus Christ. Neither could see the universal scope of their little history, nor its abiding typical meaning. What they did know was this: the Lord cares for his own, and he will not forsake the soul of those who trust in him. Your life and mine have a meaning beyond today. That meaning can only be read and comprehended in its fullness in eternity. Until then, we must walk by faith. O Lord, how great are thy works, and thy thoughts are very deep. For thou, Lord, hast made me glad through thy work. I will triumph in the work of thy hands. Psalm 92, 5 and 4.